Hey guys, this week we are talking about Chris's recent local trip, some listener questions, and a whole lot more, so stick around. This episode is sponsored by TravelZork Travel. Learn more at TravelZorkTravel.com.
Welcome to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Vegas, here we come.
Vegas!
Here are your hosts, Chris and Josh.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 76 of the Crap Vegas podcast. I am Chris. He's Josh. Josh, what's going on out on the West Coast?
Well, I don't know if it's West Coast. Well, it kind of is West Coast. Have you been following, Chris, all of the free agent frenetic stuff that's going on in the NFL?
I have completely tuned out from the NFL right now because I've been focusing on college basketball. But Josh sent me a post the other day, something along the lines of the fact that the Seahawks were interested in talking to Aaron Rodgers. And I was like, why in the world would they do that? I said, you got Geno Smith. Rodgers isn't better. He's like, no, we don't have Geno Smith anymore. You're just trading everybody away.
Right. Geno Smith went appropriately to the Las Vegas Raiders.
I don't think he's really going to make the Raiders any better. But at the same time, if I'm the Seahawks, I sure as hell do not want Aaron Rodgers.
No, and fortunately we got, well, hopefully fortunately, we ended up with Sam Darnold and the quarterback, what do you call it when the musical chairs, I was going to say Russian roulette, but that's not the right
carousel here. Yeah.
Yeah. But
so we ended up with Darnold from the Vikings, huh?
We got Sam Darnold from the Vikings for about $10 million less than Geno will probably get. And people here think that's most likely an upgrade. I think Geno will be good for the Raiders. He is a good quarterback. He's been really solid. I think what we found here is that Geno is just not great. He's very good, but not enough to really take you over the hump, maybe. I mean, unless you have a really solid team around him, which we didn't. I think Sam Darnold could go either way. What I don't want is more of the same. I either want him to be great so the Seahawks improve, or I want him to really suck so we can get good draft picks. Either way.
I'm just really impressed with myself that you threw out a random quarterback and I knew where they played last year. that is impressive.
You're making progress.
I really am. I'm pretty much an NFL tout at this point, Josh. Yeah, so that's good for you guys. Hopefully 2025-26 is a better season.
And I don't think as of this recording that Aaron Rodgers has landed anywhere.
I hope he doesn't. He doesn't need to land anywhere.
I think the Steelers are torn between away. Yeah, the Steelers are torn between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, neither of whom I would say are great options.
I think I actually texted you that day. I would even much rather have Russell Wilson than Aaron Rodgers, knowing who you were getting.
Me too. Indiana, let's see, Daniel Jones signed with the Colts. So Indiana Jones is the joke that's going around right now, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Well,
football
that's
news.
pretty awesome.
That's what you tuned in for, right?
Yeah, that's what we talk about on the show, isn't it?
Yeah, I got Vegas in there. It's Raiders talk. So, Chris, how about you? Do you have any football news or any other news?
Oh, tons of NFL news, Josh. I've been sitting on this whole time. No, I got no news. I got nothing going on. I'm just a dance dad right now. That's all it is. I have spent, Josh knows, I've spent the past 2 weekends nonstop at dance competitions all weekend. It's very tiring. I'm very proud of my daughter. She's done very well. But if anybody has ever been to one of these things, they would know it's miserable. You typically get there, like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I think I got home at like 10:30 at night, those nights that I was there. And even the days that she wasn't dancing, we had to go down and see our friends dance, which is a multi-hour. It's too much. Thank God I have a little bit of reprieve this weekend, Josh. And I didn't even remember until I think late yesterday, I'm going to be in Vegas in a couple days.
Yes, you are. Oh, wait. This is one of those shows.
Oh, it is. It's a time paradox. I'm in Vegas right now, Josh.
Darn it, I usually lead with that.
Well, let me rephrase a little bit. Depending on if you're a KCS patron or if you're just a normal listener,
that's true, right?
I may be back home in Louisville by the time you listen to this, but who knows? I guess you'll just have to figure that out at the time.
Anyway, I was going to say, Chris, I went to one of those dance competitions one time. A family friend of ours had a daughter that was into the dance, kind of like yours, and she drug us to one of their competitions up here in the Seattle area. Thing, we were there for 5 hours to see her dance for 2 minutes or something like that. 2 minutes.
Yeah, twice. Yeah. It's always, the schedules are always a mess. I think this weekend, my daughter had 7 dances on Sunday, but the dances were at 8 a.m., 10:15, 12:30, 2:45, 5:15. And then there's awards in between different levels here. So you can never really actually leave to get away and drive home for a little bit or anything. And so I'm literally just stuck at this location all day in an uncomfortable chair with poor Wi-Fi access that I had to pay $30 for even to get because there was no cell service in this building. It's a convention center. Just, yeah, terrible, terrible. I don't encourage people to do this, but the things that we do as parents.
I will say, once, while you talk about all this stuff you've been doing running around for your kids, I've been getting really proficient at being a volleyball scorer.
Congratulations.
Scorekeeper, not scorer, scorekeeper.
We've talked about that on this show before, Josh, so we're all very proud of you.
I'm good at it now, though. That's the thing.
Hey, we all have special skills in life.
Right.
But with that being said, Josh, let's let people know how to get a hold of us. Okay, you can send us an email. That is podcast@crapvegas.com. You can join us over on our Facebook page. We'd love to have you. That's crapvegas.com/Facebook. You can leave us a voicemail that I haven't checked in a couple months. That's crapvegas.com/voicemail. You can join us over on Twitter.
X.
Very good. He's at Vegas Duffy. I'm at Small Whale 13, or the show page is at Crap Vegas. Or we'd love to have you join us over on our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/crapvegas. And we are still offering that 1 week free trial. I know a lot of you have taken us up on that the past couple of weeks. We're glad to have you. Hopefully you see the value and want to stick around. But if not, just screw Josh and Chris, get the free week and then move on. That's cool too.
Yes, thank you all for your support and for signing up for those trials to give us a shot.
Previous episode feedback, Josh, we got a bunch of things that I was going to include this week, but I had one that was a little longer and I thought I would just pare it down and we talk about this today. And it was an email from Nate talking about walking away a winner. That's something we discussed in our last episode.
Yep.
I know we got a lot of feedback along those lines, but I think his email actually did a really good job of hitting a lot of the feedback that other people had and just talking about a couple other things. So let's take it one step at a time here. Nate's email said, "Sup, bros." I don't know. People still say sup. Is that something people do?
Did you see, by the way, the SNL? Do any of your kids say slay?
Oh, God, yes. In fact, I think my daughter texts me Slay Queen at least 15 times a day.
Did you see the SNL skit this last week?
I did not watch it. I heard this week's episode was very good, but I have not watched it. I was going to watch it today if we get done at a reasonable time, but we'll find out.
It was Lady Gaga, but there's a sketch. I won't give it, but the song is called No More Slay.
Nice. I can't wait to hear it. Okay. He said, anyways, sup, bros. Related to a previous show and the comment about losing more than I'm proud of, here are my thoughts on your recent episode about walking away a winner. This session management has taken me from losing thousands per session to, at worst, losing several hundred per trip. Well, that's a massive change.
I like it so far, yeah.
I mean, so far, so good, Josh. Here we go. He said, for table games, not named craps. So, Josh, this does not work at a dice table, but here's what he says for those other games. Rule number 1, determine a trip, daily, and session buy-in limit. And for these games, for him, it's typically 20 to 30 times the minimum bet. What do you think about that? If it's not a craps table, setting a 20 to 30 times minimum bet for a session or a day, whatever it may be for you.
Well, I have a problem with setting limits, which maybe is part of the problem.
When the problem starts,
right.
I think that's the first thing you say.
I don't do well with trip limits. I don't do well with daily limits. And I really applaud the people that can stick to those. It's just hard for me. And maybe I should really focus on that. Whatever my trip budget is, if I'm going to be there 4 days, a fourth of that is the first day and so on. Sessions are even trickier. And the problem is if you lose the whole day in the first session, then all that, it's a problem. But I like that idea and I think it's reasonable. And I do want to see if I can figure out something like that for craps and slots too. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, Josh, I used to be really good at this until I met you. And that's not a knock on you by any means. But when I first started going to a casino, I was going with some family members, like cousins that would take me to Vegas and stuff. And they got me in the routine of when I went on trips, I would literally have envelopes with the day written on it and the amount of cash I had available for that
one
day.
Of those. Yeah.
I had it. And if that envelope was empty, I mean, I guess I could steal from another envelope, but I mean, I was pretty limited by doing that.
See, I look at my lines of credit at each property as an envelope. So if I
use
up the envelope at Venetian, I go to the envelope at Aria.
And to be fair, back when I was doing this, I didn't have credit established anywhere. And we've talked many times how there is absolutely nothing worse for money management than having a credit line. It is terrible for you. It's available. You're going to use it. It's easy. It's quick. There's a reason that the casinos want you to take out these things because it's definitely in their favor. But that being said, yes, I used to be very good about this. I would set daily limits. And if I hit the end of it, I was done for the day. I go back to my room, chill, eat, watch TV.
Yeah.
I don't do that as well anymore. And yes, having credit limits is probably the reason that I don't do that very much anymore. but I would love to get back to that place. And I am doing a better job nowadays. And Josh knows I'll typically just leave the trip, cut it short if I need to, if I hit a max. So that's about the only thing I do set as a max. But yeah, if it comes to like daily sessions, I don't do that as well.
All right. What you got next, Nate?
Rule number 2, determine walkaway conditions. And for these games, non-craps games, here's what he says. A, when I've doubled up, I lock that in and only continue to play with the remainder if any left. B, I have a stack of my buy-in. I put any winnings into a separate stack that never gets touched. An example, rebets only come from the buy-in stack. And once the buy-in stack is gone, I color up the win stack and walk away. C, if he's progressive betting blackjack, he walks away when his 5-bet or 12-bet hit, depending on what he's playing. So if he has a strategy, Josh, where he goes
where he's going
1,
up.
2, 1, 5, 1, 12, he'll set, okay, if this hits, I'm done.
Right.
Or D, walking away means leaving the table with your chips. I often cash out. This tiny little mental break keeps me from just firing it in there and letting the negative EV eat me alive. So he's got a couple different ways that he handles non-craps things. Any of this you think you can incorporate into your normal gaming?
Well, I'm reasonably good at especially craps, at walking away a winner if I've done something like doubled up. You and I think, are pretty good
Both
about when
very
we get
good at it.
up, we're able to say, okay, we're going to play it back down. If we're up $5,000, we'll say we'll play it back down to 4. And if we get down to 4, we leave. And we're pretty good about sticking to that. I can't think of a time where we have not.
We are. And I think, if we say, we'll go down to this number and no less, and we'll pretend, on each shooter, we'll be like, okay, did they fund the next roll? Do I have enough money to play my normal level on the next roll? If they did, we'll do another shooter. If they didn't, we'll color up. And Josh is right. If we can get up early in a session, we are very good about walking away a winner. Our issue is when we don't get that early pop and we're chasing the whole time. And that's where we struggle a lot more.
And one thing I'm not good at that kind of Nate brings up a little bit there is I'm not good at doing it by like the number of shooters or anything like that. I don't do, or if you're a blackjack hand, the number of hands or anything like that. I tend to, what I've always liked to do, and part of the thing we like to do in gambling is just go and play. So what I really want to do is be able to play for a long time and hopefully break even, that kind of thing, which isn't good in a negative EV game. The longer you play, obviously, the increase the chances of you're losing or losing a lot, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate says, I'm still working on craps, but at present, here's what he does, Josh. He says a session is 10 shooters by whatever my strategy initial bet is. I put winnings on the back rack, and he walks away when he's either 2 to 3 times up or he's gone through 10 shooters. Could you do that?
I like that walking away 2 to 3 times up. That's fine. The 10 shooters, I think I probably wouldn't have enough. Like, I don't know if that would be, it depends on how long it takes, obviously, but it might not be enough, and it would require me keeping track of the number and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would lose track very quickly. I think I was listening to a recent You Can Bet on That episode when they were talking about spite bets and a couple other things on, if that's the episode, if that triggers it for anybody. And I remember Mark saying that craps is just one of those games where it's lose. Yeah,
I remember that
one
too.
good shooter. And you hope that you're at the table for that one good shooter to bring you back even or make you some money. But that really is what craps is, and it's so different than all the other games.
Yes.
Blackjack, you're up and down and up and down. And even like playing roulette or even some like carnival games, you can have these big pops and then drop down a little bit, a big pop. But there's something about craps where, especially the way that we play, Josh, where we're playing across, we're taking every number we can. We play the feature bets, which is also something that increases the variance significantly. We're typically like down, way up. And, hopefully that's what we should see.
That's the goal. Well, really, it should
way
just
up,
be way up and then down.
Yes,
way
but
up
the way up doesn't always happen.
Nope.
We're not always at the table when it happens. And sometimes we just don't have the bankroll to chase it, to be there for when it happens.
Right.
So eventually we just have to cut our losses and move on. But yeah, I think that is what makes craps such a hard game, because you really have to have a much bigger bankroll to have a real chance to play compared to a lot of other games at the casino.
Yeah, absolutely. The other point that Nate made about putting your winnings on the back rack or something like that, maybe it's easier for you, Chris, but the way I do my chips, it's just hard, especially if you get on one of those craps rolls that is fantastic. It's really hard to then keep track of, for me at least, keep track of where I am money-wise.
The only time I keep track of like how much I've made back per roll is when things are going poorly.
Right.
If it's going well, I'm not trying at all.
No.
I'm putting my chips right where they should be with the same denominations together, and I'm sorting them every 20 with a different colored chip so I can quickly count my rack. That's what happens when things are going well. When things are going poor, then eventually, yes, I will start putting my black and green chips in a certain part of the rack or on the side in a different rack and be like, okay, I'm back to my buy, and now I can really go crazy.
I'll tell you, Chris, you probably agree with me. There is almost no better feeling in all of gambling than when you're playing craps by yourself, completely by yourself. It's just you and the dealers, and you go on a monster roll, and you get all these chips, and you get to say, time out or hold on, don't send the dice yet. I need to count my chips.
Okay, I've never counted mid-roll. I have organized things a little bit,
after you 7 out, like it's the end of the roll. But you're the only one there, so they would start a new roll.
Yeah, let me get my bearings for where I am. Yes, no, that is, I have done that. It is really nice to hit that point. And as somebody that typically plays by myself, at most with one other person, that it can pop up a decent amount.
Yeah, it can.
So Nate, we really appreciate your email. It was good to hear some of your thoughts on this. I'm going to try to incorporate a couple things that you talk about in my next trip to the casino, but I thought that was just something everybody could appreciate.
You mean you will have incorporated them on this trip
I
to
will
Vegas?
have incorporated because I'm in the middle of a trip right now.
Exactly.
And Josh, I'm way up. So at this point, I'm just managing my winnings. I don't want to win too much because I don't want to put the casino out of business.
Perfect.
Okay, so recently I did something that I haven't done in a very long time, Josh. 2 to 3 years at least.
Oh, let's see. Should I guess?
Sure, go ahead. What do you think? It's casino related, but it's something I haven't done in a couple years.
You played Casino War.
I did not. I have no local properties that offer Casino War. The only place I ever see it continually is at Cosmo.
Yeah, it's there. I posted on, I just thought of it because I posted on Twitter the other day. Somebody asked what your favorite casino game was, and I said Casino War. I think some people thought I was serious.
I'll spoil the excitement for you, Josh. I stayed overnight at a local property.
Wow. And how did it compare to those, the finer properties in Las Vegas?
It didn't, but it was definitely an experience I hadn't had in a long time. So I wanted to talk about a couple things specific to my stay that I just hadn't talked about on this show in a long time because honestly, I hadn't stayed at Belterra.
Yeah, you don't stay overnight very often locally.
I do not. Typically, I like to get in and out. The longest I ever stay, maybe 2 to 3 hours. That's kind of pushing it. But this was a situation where, again, my daughter had a dance competition in a different city. I was going to have to drive to that city, and the casino was along the way. So I said, why don't I just spend the night,
Great
cut the trip in
coincidence
half?
when that happens.
I can charge. I drive an electric car, so I can charge my vehicle up. It's a good stopping point. I had justified in my mind that this was a terrific idea.
I was going to ask you if it was because you'd had too much to drink at the casino. That would have been a better story.
I didn't have a single alcoholic beverage the whole time I was there.
Even though you had a room.
I did. I had a room. I just, didn't pop up. I don't drink too terribly much, especially if you're not there. I don't like drinking by myself.
No.
That does make me feel like an alcoholic, even though I'm not one. So I don't
Gambling by
that.
yourself is different. Drinking by yourself is bad.
I can justify that somehow, but the drinking part, no, we're not going down that path at all.
So how
Josh,
was it?
Yeah, let me talk about a couple things that I found really interesting about Belterra, some things that have changed over the past couple years for people that are familiar with it. Like I said, it was my first time there overnight and probably at least 2-3 years, might have been more. I contacted my host middle of the week and said, hey, this never happens, but I have a chance to get up there and spend the night. She was extremely happy to have me come. She didn't say anything about the room, just said it was all taken care of. When I checked in, Josh, the lady at the front desk was over the top nice. She informed me that I was full F&B. She said, Miss Blank has you all set up with all your food covered the whole weekend. Just charge it back to your room. And she's also covering your spa stuff. So if you want to go get anything done at the spa, let us know. And it's all on the house.
Okay, so did you?
No. God, no. I don't do it in Vegas. Why would I do it at a local property?
Is there a VIP, an F&B room?
There is not kind of. So they have a couple things. First, when you check in, they actually do have a onyx and titanium check-in room that's completely separate.
Okay.
But I never see anybody actually in there working. So I didn't go to it. But there was nobody else at the front desk anyway. So I just used the fast line just in case. But what they do have at Boyd Properties, at least local properties, is they have one of those, what I'll affectionately refer to as like a diamond lounge, like Caesars does, for their top tiers, where you can go in, you have to pay for the liquor. They can't give away free liquor in Indiana, but they have a bar in there. They have free food sometimes, just a nice little room to sit down and chill kind of away from the crowd. I didn't go there. I've never gone there in the 15 years that I probably could.
Right.
But it is available if that's something that's important to you.
Well, that's cool. And how was the room?
The room was great. She actually put me up in a king suite. I had stayed in one of these rooms a while back, but it had definitely been a long time. Really nice rooms, Josh. I mean, for what it is, I think Belterra has a very nice hotel. I like it a lot more than the Caesars property locally, Caesars Southern Indiana, or Horseshoe, whatever they're calling themselves nowadays. I can't keep track. They change it literally monthly, it feels like at this point.
Right.
But got set up in a king suite, very spacious. I'd say, just guessing, maybe 700 to 800 square feet, which is for a room around here, not bad for a local property.
No.
Couple things that you would like, Josh. They're the only rooms in the hotel that offer in-room dining. You can't do in-room dining in a standard room, only suites.
Interesting. Well, that would be enough for me to want to get a suite every time. And I'm guessing even if you're paying rack rate, they're not that much.
No, I think they're somewhere probably in the $250 range midweek, $300 to $350 range weekends. I think the bigger issue is there's just not that many of them. I think they're based on the way that they're laid out and where they're located on the floors. I bet you there's only 2 to 3 of them per floor. And I think the casino has maybe 15 floors. So you're probably only talking somewhere between 25 and 30 of these rooms total.
Are they at the end of the hallways and the murder ends?
They're not. They're actually dead center where the halls kind of make, they almost make like a V shape when they're coming out. They're in the center of the V and they kind of wrap around a little bit. So they're strategically placed in the middle of the floor. But yeah, I'd have to imagine there's not many of them. And most of the time I check the Belterra website, they're not even listed as available on there. So I feel like they're held back for certain players usually.
And did you have room service?
I did. I did want to bring that up because I knew that would be important to you, Josh.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a truncated menu, and it's only from their like fancy steak and seafood restaurant. It's called 19 Steak and Seafood. I've had it before sitting down eating there, and it was really good. I got it for room service this time. I got a filet, a side of mashed potatoes, and a Caesar salad. She even told me, she's like, okay, I just need to verify you're in a suite. And she got my room number. She's like, now I can only do room charges. We can't take cash or credit card payment just because the way they're set up.
Sure.
And I was like, perfect. That's what I needed. No problem there. They include gratuity in the delivery already. I added some more on top just to be nice.
You didn't say, though, I'm full F&B.
Yeah, no, I did not. Josh would. Josh would literally wear a sticker on his chest.
How dare you ask me if tell me that I can't pay by credit card?
No, so nothing like that, Josh. But I had the food delivered up. They brought it up on the normal delivery cart that you would see for any other property. You can tell it doesn't get used very often. I think part of it was broken. And she even's like, be careful extending this arm. It doesn't work very well. It wasn't the most ideal setup. I actually ended up taking off the dishes off the tray and putting it onto a table that was in the room because that was a lot easier.
So something we've never talked about, Chris, when you do room service, whether it's here or in Vegas, do you have the servers take the covers off things? I usually don't. That's why I ask. I just have them put whatever it is on whatever table I'm using with the covers on, with the plastic on, the saran wrap, whatever it is on, so that I can get ready with what I need to and it's still as warm as possible. What do you do?
I've never done that before. They've always just, they do it by default. They take that stuff away.
Yeah, I always say, hold on.
Don't. Time out. No, I haven't done that before, Josh. I just let them do their thing. So yeah, no problems there for me at all. But the meal itself, here's what I'll say. If you're comparing it to Vegas, it was terrible.
Well, which hotel? If you're comparing it
to, like a Wynn sort of property, terrible.
Well, yeah.
If you're comparing it to Venetian, still not good, but is it better than having like McDonald's? Yeah, it is.
There you go. All right.
You wouldn't have liked the steak, Josh. It wasn't seasoned well enough. I didn't think it was cooked properly. I ordered it medium. It came medium rare, closer to the rare side than the medium side.
Right.
I ordered it with said they had like a garlic butter seasoning sauce. I don't know, something like that. It felt like they literally poured a gallon of butter on top of the steak. Like I didn't taste any garlic. It just literally felt like butter, and I didn't like that either. Here's the difference in levels, Josh. When they delivered the steak to the room, when they asked if I wanted any sauce, the only sauce they had available was A1. Not a good sign. Just not a good sign. They brought me a little mini room service bottle of A1 with it. And here's how bad it was. Unfortunately, I needed that bottle of A1 because there was not enough seasoning I could put on it to give it a reasonable taste. The side was fine. The mashed potatoes were fine. The Caesar salad was the worst Caesar salad I've ever had in my life. The dressing was so thick which is not what I usually would use as an adjective to describe a Caesar dressing. It was so thick, it was really bad. The meal cost, I think, $75 was the cost after delivery charge for all three things, which from a pricing perspective is not bad. I mean, to get a filet, it was a 10-ounce filet with a huge side of mashed potatoes, again, covered in butter. I've never seen that much butter before in my life. It came with a basket of bread, which was actually my favorite part of the meal. But yeah, I think I would order something differently next time. I just don't know what it is. And it is a limited menu. It's not their full menu that they would have in the restaurant.
Right.
So let's talk to the more fun side of things, Josh, the gambling, since I actually had a lot more time than I usually do. I usually rush right down to the craps table.
Yeah, you were overnight, right?
I got there at like 5 o'clock. The craps table doesn't typically open till 7 that I like to play on, the traditional craps table. So I had plenty of time to kill. I went down. I'll tell you what I did a lot this trip. I played a lot of video poker.
All right. That makes me happy. That makes Robin from Anytime Gambling happy. Jack, Boring Jack, happy.
I played the hot roll video poker we talked about on our last episode. Didn't hit anything significant. It didn't really go that well. And more unfortunately, the only one that they have of that game in the whole casino, the draw button is broken. So if you can hold your cards,
you got to stand
buttons,
on everything.
But to draw, once you hold, you literally have to tap the screen. Which gets really old really quickly. It gets tiring. Your arm gets tired from raising it up to do that every time. Just not an ideal situation. So I moved over, Josh, to something I typically haven't loved in the past, but I know a lot of people do. I started playing Ultimate X.
Oh, see, speaking of Boring Jack is cheering right now.
Now, I didn't do the Ultimate X streak. I don't like that one, and I've determined that I really don't like that one.
Can you tell me what that means real quick?
So like Ultimate X streak is if you get a three of a kind or better on the next hand, you'll get like 2x, and then the hand after that you get 4x.
That's what Ultimate X is. So what's Ultimate X?
So for that, depending on what you got on Ultimate X streak, it could be like 2x, 4x, then 12x if it was a full house that you got on that hand, and it gets progressively bigger each time. For Ultimate X, whatever the hand was that you got, it gives an award for the next hand only. And it's specific to it. So if you got, say you got 3 of a kind, you would get 3x on the next hand. If you got, or no, I think it's 4x for 3 of a kind, and it's 3x if you got 2 pair and stuff like that. But it's only for one hand. Okay. So streak is a little bit different.
Gotcha.
So anyways, Josh played Ultimate X. I was playing dollar Ultimate X, 3 hand. I don't like playing a single hand. I have to have multiple hands. That's just the way I operate. So I think for me, I was playing $30 a pull, 3 hands on dollar for Ultimate X. I enjoyed it. I had some really good hits where I was getting like $800 or $900 pays. You know, so 20 to 30 times my bet. I had a handful of those good ones.
Yeah.
I had one that set up perfectly for me, Josh. It was the most depressing thing in my life. I was playing the 3 hand. I was dealt 3 aces with a kicker. And so I was like, oh, what do I do? Do I keep the kicker and draw for that 4th ace? Do I just draw both cards trying to just get a 4th ace and maybe a kicker will come with it? I ended up keeping the 3 aces and just trying to grab a 4th ace. But here's the kicker on it, Josh. I had 12x on 2 out of the 3 hands. Oh. So if I would have got that 4th ace that pays $800, even without the kicker, that's 800 times 12, $9,600. With the kicker, the 12 times 2,000 would have been $24,000 per hand.
I don't think they have enough to pay you there.
They probably wouldn't. They would have just shut the casino down, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I didn't even get a 4th ace, period. Oh, well. It was really depressing. But I really enjoyed video poker. I thought it was a lot of fun. I killed a lot of time on it. Probably played an hour and a half worth of video poker and didn't play nearly as much slots as I usually do. Unfortunately, for the whole trip, though, I didn't get a single hand pay, which is really weird the way that we play.
Yeah, that's the way we're playing these days, especially. I mean, even in video poker, if they're doing $30 a pull, that you'd expect a hand pay once in a while. But
yeah, absolutely.
Play
I
any
would have
dice?
thought so. I did play dice. You know me. I have to play dice. That's the
Me too.
most fun thing that I do the whole... Yeah, shut up. You do not. So here's what happened. I walked over. After I played some video poker, I lost track of time. I got over to the traditional table about 7:15, 7:30, and only half a table was open, like usual, but the table was full. There was 5 players at it. You know me. I'm not trying to sneak in and be a 6th player at a table like that. I'd be miserable. So I kind of walked around, killed another 15, 20 minutes. I was hoping somebody would walk away. Nobody ever did. So eventually, right across from the traditional table I like to play at is a crapless table that's typically a little bit higher limit. And by a little higher, I mean, instead of being $10, Sometimes it's 15. It could be 25, but effectively never. It's usually 15.
Right.
So I walked over to that crapless table that was completely empty, and it was $15. And I threw my card down. I knew the base dealer. His name is Jamie, really nice guy. He asked me what I was doing over at this table and not over there. I said, oh, it's full. Can't get in over there. He starts to get me a marker from the pit. And as he's doing that, he's like, do you want me to talk to the floors? I think we have an extra floor tonight. They can open that game early if they wanted to. And I was like, no, it's not really a big deal. And he's like, I know you prefer that game. Do you want me to ask? Because if they bring a floor in, Josh, then they can open the other half of the table.
Sure, yeah.
They have 3 dealers. They just don't have a box. And they won't open a table all the way with just 3. They require that 4th person to be there. And he's like, here, let me ask. So one of the floors came over that I really like. He's like, yeah, give me 10 minutes. I'll get that table open for you and I'll get you in on the other side. I said, perfect. So I walked over to the other table, not even thinking. And that was the biggest mistake I made of the whole weekend, Josh.
I was going to say it almost had to be. Like now you're pressured into playing there, even if the vibe wasn't right or something, you're kind of obligated.
I think the craps gods were trying to tell me to stick at the crapless table instead of the traditional table. I didn't listen to them. We have talked many times on this show about how, in my eyes, the worst thing you can possibly have to do as a player like us is walk up to a table and watch other people play craps when you have no action on it.
Uh-huh.
Well, that was what was happening. I walked up to a table, and at the time when I finally got over there, there were 3 females at the table and 2 men with them. These 3 females had never played craps before in their life, which is usually a good sign.
Yeah.
And the girl shooting, Josh, she proceeded to make them all in front of me. And when I first got there, she hadn't even made a side, but she started hammering numbers. She made them all. The most anybody had on it was $1 on the small. Nothing on the tall or the all. I don't know how you pick, but they picked. So they didn't make anything on it. She kept shooting. She went on. She made the small again and was 11 away from making them all again. She probably rolled for about a half an hour. And the whole time she was shooting, Josh, I never did get my marker because I guess what happened was they assigned it to the table I first walked up to because that's where I gave them my card. So I ended up having to walk back over to that table to get my chips, to come back over to the other table. And even after doing that, because the floor had been working on my marker the whole time, they couldn't actually open the table. It wasn't open yet. So finally, after that person finally 7'd out, the next shooter went on to make a small and probably hit about 10 fours. And I still couldn't get in yet because I had my money, but the table wasn't open on my side yet.
Oh.
I should have just gone home. I should have just said, forget it, go back to my room, call it a day, and move on. I didn't. I waited patiently. I didn't say anything. They finally got me into the game. It went horribly. Nobody else had a good roll the rest of the time. And the crapless table had a couple players go over there. Somebody over there made it all twice.
Eek. Yeah, those are the worst when you, I
mean, pretty much the worst thing that could have possibly happened to me happened. It was very depressing. I didn't enjoy myself. And even worse than that, I understand that we have, shortage of dealers nowadays everywhere. Belterra's been bringing in some new dealers to try to teach them craps. They deal like on other games, blackjack, roulette.
Right.
But they're not craps dealers. And I was getting really frustrated because they were slower than I like there. Because the dealers there that I'm used to are terrific. They're just as good as Vegas quality dealers. The new ones, no, not so much at all. They're slow. I would make a press move, Josh. Like I would take my 6, I'd have 150 on it. I'd throw in a nickel to take it to 180 because it pays 175.
Right.
And they would like start taking some money off my bet and sitting it here and taking this money here and putting it back. And it's like, dude, just hand me my base bet and you take all that and we can save some time. It wasn't clicking with them at all. There were many times in my favor that they were paying my place bets, like buy bets. They were paying 9s and 5s, 3-2. So that was interesting. But overall, Josh, it was kind of frustrating because it was going slower than I liked. We weren't having any good rolls, and I completely missed out on just amazing rolls. And even the dealers, one of the guys I really like, his name's Steven. Once those girls finally left and walked away from the table and I was the only one left, he's like, man, Chris, you don't even know what you missed before they got there. He said you easily would have made probably 20 grand. Yeah. And I was like, oh, thanks for letting me know. That makes me feel so much better.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for telling me. Those are the things you just really don't want to know.
Yeah. So overall, Josh, the gambling, terribly. Nothing good. I lost a lot of money on the weekend. And of course, since I was staying there, I played more than I probably would have other times, which is something we've talked about in the past. That's the one benefit to playing locally is you can just walk away and leave early if it's going bad. In this case, since I was staying there, it ended up costing me a lot more money than I wanted it to.
Yuck.
Other than that, a couple things worth mentioning. One, valet parking is back at Belterra. They took it away during COVID. It finally has made its way back. It's only open on the weekends, Friday through Monday morning. But they do have valet parking, which I think for some people, it's free, completely free.
There you go.
So that's a really nice benefit for some people. And two, I went to pay off a marker as I was leaving, Josh. I took out a second marker. Obviously didn't play all the way through it. And I had some cash from some other stuff. So I was just going to pay one off. And not to mention, it's kind of a free float at my local casino because they always pay off the oldest marker. Even if you took markers that day, they always go back to the oldest one. So as long as you're rotating them, a marker really never comes due. And usually in my experience, at some point I have a winning session where I can pay back an extra marker. So it's just a free 30-day loan of however much money I have out. And so I'm going to take advantage of it. It was a new person at the cashier trying to take my marker payment. I don't know what she was doing. At one point, she had my $5,000 in chips. At one point, she wanted me to sign a ticket, which I knew was not good because I shouldn't be signing anything. At one point, she was about to hand it to me, and she's like, I need you to sign here. And she started to hand me my $5,000 back. And I was like, no, you need that. I'm paying it off. She's like, oh, no, I thought you wanted $5,000. I said, well, why would I give you $5,000 if I wanted $5,000? Wouldn't I just keep it? It didn't click. This was Indiana education system working very well here. Eventually, we got through it. It took about 20 minutes. And at that point, I was frustrated. I was tired. And I just wanted to be done.
Yeah.
So a poor ending to the trip. But Josh, I did get to experience an overnight trip at Belterra that I haven't done in a while.
There you go. That's something. Thanks for sharing that story.
Well, Josh, people always say we don't talk about our trips as much as we used to. So I thought I'd at least share it. It's just something we would skip over normally, but I thought people might like to hear about my horrible weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it all worked out in the end, Josh, because my daughter ended up placing first in like 4 different categories over the weekend. So by the time I actually got home at the end of the weekend, late on Sunday night, everybody was in a terrific mood.
It was all worth it.
Absolutely. And I like to think that my loss allowed her to win.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
It's
I thought
karma.
so too.
Right.
After the break, we have some really good listener questions to answer, so stick around. Josh, we haven't talked about our friends over at Travel Zork in 2 weeks, so why don't we mention a couple things that we love them for?
Let's talk for just a second, Chris, about Travel Zork travel itself. So we've mentioned it before. You all know if you're regular listeners to the show, Michael and the team at Travel Zork specialize in really luxury travel all over the world. If you want to take a really nice trip to a 4 or 5-star property, that's what Travel Zork is there to help you out with. They can certainly help with Vegas, not helping you with getting comps or anything like that. But if you're really wanting an over-the-top trip to Vegas, Travel Zork can help you out. But where I've used them, and I think where Chris has used them before, is for planning really nice trips outside of Vegas. I mean, if you're looking for a great trip to Hawaii, Michael and the team can help you out. A great trip to Iceland, anywhere in Europe, all sorts of exotic venues, cruises. They can help you out with all of those things, even with airline travel if you want to go that route. Michael and the team are fantastic. Their customer service is second to none, and they can help you out with anything you want to do that's a trip that you want to be extra special.
Yeah, I've always had great experiences when I work with Michael to do some of my bookings when I was traveling with my family in places I wasn't as familiar with. There was always a little extra touch that he threw in that I wasn't expecting, whether it was like a little small gift when I arrived or even just a thank you letter from the property. Some really cool things like that. So I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. That is either travelzork.com, or if you're interested in Zorkfest, that's travelzork.com/Zorkfest. Okay, let's start it off with a question from Derek over on the CV Facebook, Josh. He actually had one for each of us and a group question here for us. Let's start it off with yours, Josh. He wants to know what your favorite burlesque show is in Vegas.
My favorite burlesque show. So does the zombie one that we saw count?
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, it's literally called zombie burlesque.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, so I don't know what the qualifications are that you have for it. Is it only burlesque shows that don't have burlesque in the name? Let's talk about some of the options that you have here, Josh.
Yes.
So we
Give
have
me some options.
We got Rouge over at Strat. We saw together,
which we saw.
We got Zombie Burlesque that's in the Miracle Mile shops over at Planet Hollywood. We saw I've seen X Burlesque and Country Burlesque and all the Caesar ones.
And what about the one at where Carrot Top plays?
a fantasy at Luxor.
Right.
So, I mean, you got all sorts of options
Chippendales?
Yeah, that's a burlesque show that
Magic
Mike. Yeah, let's
right.
throw that in there too. Why not? So what do you think, Josh? Out of all the things that we've seen, what has been your favorite? Oh, hey, and I'll tell you what, even just for the heck of it, I'll allow you to throw in from over at New York, Zumanity. Even though it wasn't a burlesque show, but it had elements of it that were along those lines.
So, Derek, thanks for the question. So, Zombie Burlesque, seriously, is my favorite burlesque show. It's one of my favorite shows currently running in Las Vegas. I think it's a terrific show. It's really a lot of fun. Now, if we think back to Zumanity days, Zumanity was a thing in and of itself.
It was.
But I mean, Zombie Burlesque. How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you, Josh. I'm actually at the point where I feel like we really need to go again.
Yeah,
because it's been well over a year, I think, since we've been to it.
I need a Jello shot.
Yeah, you get the free Jello shot at the end. That was really fun. It's a weird theater. It's kind of small. You kind of sit off to the side a little bit. I don't love it when there's like just 50 seats and they're like, here, you just file in or whatever. I don't love that. But overall, I had a terrific time at that show. Very pretty women. It was funny. It had much more of a plot than any of the other burlesque shows, other than maybe Rouge. But I didn't love Rouge. That actually felt kind of, it was over the top, Josh, so that I almost felt slightly uncomfortable when I was there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I think we liked it, but it wasn't nearly as much fun as Zombie Burlesque.
No, I don't think so either. It went more on the crude side than it did like the sexy side. And don't get me wrong, I like the crude side, but it just, I didn't enjoy it as much. I definitely really like Zombie Burlesque, and tickets are so cheap. It's a cheap show to go to compared to some of the other ones. It has a good show time. It's easy to get to, being in the middle of the strip. Highly recommend. Okay, he also had a question for me, Josh. He asked what my favorite bourbon is. Good question. I have a lot that I really like, although, like I said, I don't drink nearly as much now as I used to. If you're just asking me what I'm going to drink 90% of the time if I'm having a drink at a function or something, it's almost always going to be a Woodford on the rocks.
Okay.
That's just, it's just an easy go-to smooth bourbon. You know, it's a Kentucky bourbon, of course, which is important to me. If I'm mixing it with something so the quality of the bourbon doesn't matter as much, or if I want it to be a little bit sweeter, I'll just use Makers. That's an easy substitute for almost anything at that point.
How about Pappy's?
If you're going to give me Pappy's as an option, sure, I'll take it. I don't have thousands of dollars per bottle. I'll tell you.
I just wanted you to be impressed that I threw out a bourbon.
Hey, I'll tell you what, living in Kentucky, Josh, there's always like charity fundraisers for my kids' school and stuff. And there's always a flight of Pappy's where they'll have 3 or 4 different bottles.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, literally worth somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 for these flights half the time. So, they're selling $100 raffle tickets trying to get you to win these things, and they're pocketing the money. But I've never won one. I've had Pappy's twice in my life. It was tremendous. I can't tell that much of a difference between that and some of the higher end, like single barrel bourbons that you can get here in Kentucky from some of the distilleries. But it was really good. So if you want to give me a bottle for free, please do. I'll drink it.
Last time we were playing at the high limit thing at Palazzo, the poker bar, the video poker bar at Palazzo, and we asked, they have a bottle of Pappy's, and we asked if they could comp it, and they said no matter how much you're playing on video poker, they can't comp that.
It's too hard to come by. When you're talking there are different ages of Pappy, and there are different, lengths of time that it's been, matured and all that stuff. So, it could be a 10-year or 20-year. I don't know. I'm not a bourbon snob by any means. You can get Pappy bottles for $500 or $600. And there are times that our local liquor stores, Liquor Barn in particular around me is a big one. They'll have, drawings, and they'll have stuff like that to get a bottle at just retail price.
Right.
But you're usually talking a bare minimum $1,000 to find one of these bottles. So yeah, I can understand why they wouldn't want to give it away, because they can sell it for $40 or $50 a glass.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't have any other bourbon knowledge. So I was going to say Jack Daniels.
I'm not a bourbon snob. I don't get into that. And Jack Daniels is not a bourbon. It's a Tennessee whiskey.
I said that for you.
Yeah, we do not like those people. And his final question, Josh, for both of us, what Caesars property besides Planet Hollywood do you enjoy the most?
Well, great question also, Derek. It's kind of, we've talked about it off and on, but for me, if I'm not staying at Planet Hollywood, I'm going to stay at Paris. And I actually don't like the casino floor at Paris all that much. The high limit slot area is okay, I guess. I've just never really been a fan of the floor there, the layout. I don't know what it is, but it's just never my go-to. I do like the rooms there. I do love the location. And, the walkway to Horseshoe is easy. And that's usually where I'm gambling if I'm staying at Paris. It's just, I've really liked the location. Part of it's probably because I used to like the buffet there back when they had a buffet. It was a good buffet. Mm-hmm. I think the restaurants are good between there and Horseshoe. That's if I'm not staying at Planet Hollywood, that's where I would stay.
Yeah, it's really hard for me because Planet Hollywood is my easy winner in this category. And that includes Caesar's Palace because I don't like Caesar's Palace.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have said the Cromwell. I love the Cromwell. I like their hotel. I like gambling there. They had great rules, great dealers. It was a win across the board. They've destroyed that place, and I wouldn't want to play there anymore. And their rooms are very dilapidated. They need updating. They're just beat up, and they've really taken away all the things that made the Cromwell special. But when we're talking about like Paris and Horseshoe, I hate playing there. Hate it. I do not like Paris's gaming floor. I really don't like the old Bally's gaming floor, Horseshoe now. Right. I don't like those spaces at all. So it's very difficult for me. I would actually say Flamingo is my answer here, Josh. If I had to pick a different property, I actually like their gaming floor. I think it has good energy. It has some nostalgia value to me.
It does.
There's a food court right off the main area, so you can go grab a crappy slice of pizza if you want one, if you're hungry. And their rooms, although they're dated and they've updated some of them over the time, they're not terrible in my eyes. Like, I don't mind their rooms. I don't know what their newest rooms are now. When I was going, it was right after they had finished all like the Go rooms. That was their big thing they did. And then they started adding like the Flamingo rooms that were renovations on some of the other types. I don't know what they've renovated recently because honestly, I haven't stayed there in probably 7 years. But Flamingo would probably be my answer here.
Makes sense.
Okay, next question from over on the CV Facebook group from Scott. Scott said, have Chris and Josh gone into much detail about how they fell into craps? I know Josh said he used to play a lot of poker and Chris was a heavy blackjack player. I used to play a lot of poker at the casino, but once I discovered craps, everything else in the casino seems so boring. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how Chris and Josh got pulled in.
Well, thanks, Scott. Thanks for the question. I think we've touched on this a little bit before. It's nothing too exciting for me. Chris's is actually more exciting in my opinion. For me, it was, I used to play, as you said, I used to play a lot of poker. And then when I was going to the tribal casinos up here in the greater Seattle area, I was playing blackjack. Just, that was what you did, especially in your, when you were younger. And then one day, I don't know if I was winning or losing or something. I walked by the craps table and I thought, that looks fun. And there was a guy playing, I think he was a green chip player. And I thought, and I wasn't, but I thought, I'm going to just do what he did. So I just mimicked his bets, not knowing what the hell was going on. And of course, the worst thing that could happen, Chris, was I won.
You won. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so then I went out and bought a book that told me to, the way to play was it was called Winning Craps or something like that. And it was place the 6 and the 8. So it was a place betting strategy. Place the 6 and the 8, make a pass line bet. If either the 6 or the 8 hits, you take them both down and you're just playing the pass line with whatever odds it said, which is not a terrible strategy. I mean, you're not going to make a fortune, but it's a really conservative, not a bad way to play. And that was how I kind of cut my teeth at it. Yeah.
So Josh is actually the culprit here for making me the craps player that I am today. I had played craps a handful of times before with buddies, $5 craps tables at the local casino when everybody's drunk and nobody really knows what's going on. We just wanted to throw dice and you didn't know when you won, when you lost. It was just one of those things.
Yeah.
It was a very confusing game. And then I started talking to Josh a lot when I met him on the internet. That sounds bad, Josh. It sounds like Josh put up
you swiped right, didn't you?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I swiped right on him on his Twitter profile. No, Josh and I started talking. He tried to convince me to play some craps. I started playing by myself a little bit. He convinced me to try playing just the inside. So I read up on how to play the inside numbers and what those were. And I didn't completely understand it, but I started playing, started liking it. I remember, Josh, my first real big session I played with you over at Wynn. It was my first time playing craps at Wynn. It was with Rick. I bought in for a large amount. Josh is like, it's a $25 table. Rick informed me it was a $100 table that they had jumped and I couldn't play at 25. So I was playing across on a $100 table when I had never really played craps seriously before. I think I lost all of my money in maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, you did.
Is that about it?
Yeah, and I felt terrible, but Chris was hooked.
You should. And you didn't give me any of my money back. There was no rebate involved.
No.
But I really thought it was a crazy fun game. Really enjoyed it. Started playing a lot more. And now here I am. I feel like I know pretty much everything you could know about a craps table. I gravitate towards it every time. I really don't play blackjack anymore. And you're right. There's just something about craps that's so different than every other game in the casino. whether we're talking slots, video poker, every other table game. It's so weird because like the mathematical mind of me says it's a terrible game to play. Why would I want to play a game where you lose, and really hope you hit one big roll to get you back and going? But when that one roll comes, it changes everything about the game. It's just such a high that you get on when a craps table is going well. And ever since experiencing that the first time, I just can't shake that feeling. And it's the game that I always gravitate towards.
Yeah, it really is a lot of fun. And I think going back to the kind of my origin of that, once I started playing craps, I don't know that I ever played blackjack really again. I mean, I have obviously, but it was, once you get into craps, the thrill of it is, as Chris said, there's just nothing quite like it.
I agree. Final question of the week. Question from David over on the CV Facebook group. He's asking about staying at Excalibur or Oyo. He said, I'm most definitely a low roller and will be traveling on a tight budget when I go to Vegas this June. He currently has 4 comp nights booked at Excalibur, but can also get pretty cheap rooms at Oyo. Josh, he says he has to pay for them. Keep that in mind.
Right.
I'm trying to decide if I want to keep my current booking or to change. I'm also trying to get one comp night at the Wynn through their slots app because in my head, I wish I was a high roller. Any advice or thoughts on these properties would be appreciated. So start off, Josh, Excalibur Oyo. He's comped at Excalibur for 4 nights. He would have to pay something, anything at Oyo. Thoughts?
Well, David, thanks for the question. I don't care if you're comped or not at Excalibur or comped or not at Oyo. I am never choosing Oyo over Excalibur. I don't think there's any reason that I can think of, and I'm sorry, Oyo, but I can't think of any reason that you would stay at Oyo over Excalibur. I know Excalibur is not Wynn. It ain't Wynn, but for Excalibur, what it is fantastic. I still think that. The rooms are serviceable. They're not great. Obviously, you're going to get what you're going to get the lower tier, rooms. You're going to get beat up furniture and that kind of stuff and smelly and weed.
I think it's Bellagio's old furniture now, isn't it?
Well, did that go to I thought that went to Luxor.
Did that go to Luxor? It might have. Maybe they got MGM Grand's old furniture.
But it's got great low limit games. I mean, I think when Chris and I were looking for coffee dice when we were staying at Park or wherever we were staying and we couldn't find it, Excalibur had a game going for coffee dice. Like it's still some great low limit gambling. It's a really big casino floor. There's lots of food options. I mean, for a lower tier property, Excalibur's still got a lot going for it.
Absolutely. I'm with Josh on this one. I don't care if you had to pay full room rate to stay at Excalibur and got every night comped at Oyo. It's still a better option. Excalibur is a 10 times better property than Oyo is. The gaming floor is significantly better. There's some good gaming to be had. You're in the MGM system, so you're earning credit for future stays, maybe where you could upgrade to a slightly nicer MGM property. They have really good food options. And even if you don't like the food options there, you have Luxor that you can walk to very easily. Right. You can go down to Mandalay Bay, play there, eat there. You have all sorts of options within the portfolio. There's nothing redeeming about Oyo. I don't know why anybody would ever want to go there in the first place.
Except the Hooters restaurant, if you're into that.
Okay, walk down there and have a dinner, but don't stay there. There's just no benefit to it. Yes, I think having 4 nights at Excalibur is awesome. I would say that the way MGM usually works their system, if you have free nights at Excalibur, you probably have free nights at Luxor.
Probably.
They usually put those 2 on the same level. And if they do for you, I would step up to Luxor. It is slightly nicer.
Yeah, I agree. As for the free room at Wynn through the app, if you can get it, I mean, staying at Wynn is an amazing experience, especially compared to, Excalibur or Oyo. But be careful with that in the sense of, the gambling limits are going to be higher. The food and beverage is higher. It's expecting more out of you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never paid a daily resort fee at Wynn, but I have to imagine it's probably $50 or $60, isn't it?
I would think so. Yeah, I don't know either, but yeah.
I mean, so even with a free room, you're probably paying a really large resort fee that you might not have had or not nearly as much at other properties. Like Josh said, there's no cheap food at Wynn. It doesn't exist. Every piece of food that they have there is ridiculously expensive. You're not going to be able to play table games if you're a low roller player. They just don't have them. Blackjack's going to start for a 6 to 5 game at $25 at a minimum. And it might be $50 in the evenings as a minimum to get on a table. I mean, I would avoid it. I know it's a great hotel. And if you don't mind staying there and walking somewhere else to play, maybe it's an option. But I'm one of those people, I don't want to experience that for one night if my other 3 are in a lower level property. Because then I'll be like, oh, I have to drop back down to that after you got used to something so nice. Because their hotel really is exquisite. The level of service is unmatched. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't pull the trigger and stay over there. I don't think it's worth it. I would just enjoy my time at Excalibur.
And if you're going to do it, for God's sakes, do it win at the end. Don't start with win.
Oh, gosh, yes. Definitely don't do win the first night. That would be very depressing. Okay, Josh, I think that's going to wrap it up for questions this week. Let's keep it rolling. Patreon, that's patreon.com/crapvegas. What do we have new over there?
Well, this was a fun show, and it will get everybody excited. Last week, we did another casino earnings show, which you're thinking, if you haven't listened, you're thinking, why would I ever want to join Chris and Josh over on Patreon? That sounds horrible. It's not. This time, we actually looked at a couple locals resort groups, and it was really fantastic. We haven't done that before, so we listened to the casino earnings calls or bits of the casino earnings calls from the Boyd properties as well as the Red Rock properties. So that was interesting. So if you're into that, we've done a couple of those in a row. We promise we're not going to do 3 in a row. That might be too much for some people.
That's too
Chris,
much.
I was thinking about it. This is episode 76. Chris, in our 76 episodes, we have never missed a cadence of doing this show every 2 weeks. Correct. And on Patreon as well, we haven't missed a show of doing that every 2 weeks opposite the main show either. So we're trying to give you a lot of content over on Patreon, and we really like doing it. It's one of our favorite things to do, is coming up with different things to talk about. It's a little different format than the main show. We really like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So feel free to join us over there, even if you don't like earnings calls. I never looked, but I have to imagine there's at least 80, 90 things you could probably listen to on there at this point. I mean, videos, audio.
Yeah, all sorts of fun.
I have no idea what the length is, but I'd have to imagine there's 60, 70 hours worth of stuff over there to go back and listen to if you want to go back to the beginning. Feel free to do that if that's what you're interested in. You also get silly things like no ads. You know, for some people, that's extremely important.
Yes.
And the ads on this show may change a little bit in the near future. And if they do, that may be more important to you. I'm not sure just how that lays out. But, you know, you can get ad-free content. You get the extra content, tons of contests. And that's something I wanted to mention. We're about to start our March Madness Bracket Challenge. As this episode comes out on Sunday, I'll be posting live the registrations to get involved in that. We're doing free brackets with prizes for the men's and women's bracket. We're also doing a high roller bracket for those that are interested in joining us for that, with a larger buy-in for those that, you know, want to win a lot more money and think they're really good at their picks. I don't know. That will all be over on Patreon. So we'd love to have you join us. And a special thank you to those that signed up the past couple weeks, Josh. I hope I pronounced this right. Robel S. with an annual subscription, Jordan H., Eric K., Tiffany B., and Mark R. with a KCS membership. So thank you to all of you that have signed up. And if you're on a trial right now, which I know a lot of you are, it hopefully reminds me when your trial converts to actually being a member, and then I'll announce you. But I'm not giving you that big bump and that emotional high that you get from hearing your name on the show until I see you've converted.
I like it. So thanks for your support, everybody. It does mean a lot to us. And as I always say jokingly, even if you don't want to listen to all that content over on the Patreon, we do appreciate your support if you want to just support the show that way.
Upcoming trips, Josh. I am in Vegas as this comes out, as I've already said. I'm staying at Palazzo. I've had a magnificent time. If I had to guess, I probably lost a ton of money at this point. It's just not good. But that being said, Josh, I had a great time. I'm sure we'll talk about it on a future episode. But I know you're heading out to Vegas again in April when I can't make it.
Yep, I'll be there April 4th through the 8th, the whole time at Venetian Palazzo. Really excited about that. Lots of listeners are already going to be there. I know that, a bunch of our patrons are going to be there. We're going to try and, meet up for things. I'll be playing I promise I'm going to play a lot of dice. I'm hopefully going to do some low limit drunk dice with boring Jack. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you're looking forward to that. Is this going to be the latest in a year that we've ever had a group trip together? Because it's going to be like June at this point.
Well, I think, it's going to be, late May, June is what we're shooting for me and Chris together.
That's crazy. Friendly reminder to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app and to visit our merch store over at crapvegas.com/shop. Josh, I think we've done it. We made it to the very end. We just go home now, right?
That's right. We just go home. But we better do one thing first.
What's that?
We better spin the wheel. All right, you ready? Here we go.
Let's do it.
It's time to spin the Crap Vegas Big Wheel. Are you ready? Josh, spin the wheel.
Listen to this wheel abruptly end in a horrible sound. Boop.
Oh, Chris, here's one. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see that? Pawn Stars is ending?
No, I didn't. Although I haven't watched that show in at least 6 or 7 years.
Well, I think a lot of people didn't watch that show in 6 or 7 years. After
Are they all still on it? Are the original people still there?
Well, the old man died, so no, he's not there.
Okay, I'm aware of that. But is Rick and Chumley and Corey still there?
Well, they're still there, but what I learned in reading this when it came up on the wheel just now is even though it's been on for 21 seasons, I don't know how many years, but it hasn't been on for 21 years. But
probably 2 a year, right?
Corey has been, it must be. But Corey has been living in Mexico for the last few years. And he comes back to Vegas to film the show.
Well, that's nice, I guess.
And he actually said, this is kind of one of the things that I thought was interesting. He said he's just kind of tired of the shtick. He said he's 40 whatever years old now, and he's kind of been playing the same character, that 23-year-old kid, for the last however long on the show, and he's just ready to be done.
No, I can understand that. I mean, it was a show that at the beginning, I really liked it, but it's like a lot of shows. As the curtain started getting pulled back and you realize more about what's actually going on in the show and the fact that almost everything nowadays is completely scripted. It's not real. These aren't real pawn items. It just kind of took away from the show for me. And I think we've even said before, I'd much rather see like a pawn show in a real city at a real pawn shop. I would actually find that more interesting.
Me too. But it's kind of the end of an era. I mean, I made the trek way back when. We walked from like Venetian Palazzo or wherever all the way to the pawn shop, the gold and silver pawn shop. So, I mean, it was a thing, and I'm sure it'll continue to be a tourist destination, but the show is at an end.
I understand. Anything else this week, Josh?
Yeah, let's give the wheel one more spin.
Okay.
Oh, another interesting one, Chris. Did you see, this one hits close to home. Did you see that Penn and Teller have their own casino game now?
I did not. What is it?
They have a game called Penn and Teller Casino Monte.
Okay.
And before I get too far into it, in researching this a little bit, when it came up on the wheel just now, I learned that this game actually came around in like 2023, maybe at Luxor or Excalibur, speaking of somewhere in there on the MGM side, and must have died. So they've rebranded it as Penn and Teller Casino Monte.
Oh,
but it's actually a game that's
attaching their name might actually make it take off.
Right. So it's kind of in honor of their celebrating their 50th year as a performing duo, that kind of thing. Okay, so Chris, it's being tested through the summer at Rio. So who knows how it may not go on. But basically, there are 3 boxes on the table. There's a P for Penn, there's an and sign, and a T for Teller. The player places a wager in one of the 3 betting spots, P, the and, or the T. By choosing a betting spot, the player is wagering that the corresponding card will be the highest of the 3 community cards that will be dealt. They may also place an optional wager on the full Monty side bet.
Ooh, fancy.
So the 3 cards are placed face down, one in each spot. After a player has made their initial wager, the dealer will shake one die in a dice cup and reveal it. If the dice shows a 1 or a 2, the dealer will turn over the card face up that corresponds with Penn, because the die was a 1 or a 2. If the die shows a 3 or 4, the dealer will flip over the card in the middle position. If the die is a 5 or 6, the dealer will flip over the card in front of Teller.
Okay.
If the die shows the 1 or a 2, as I said, the card in front of Penn is revealed, and so on. This is where players have the option to raise. So after the first card is revealed, it may or may not be the one that's in front of you that you're betting on. Players have an opportunity to make a raise between 1 to 3 times their initial bet, or they can just check and do nothing. After all players have exercised their option to raise, the dealer will then turn over the remaining 2 cards for the final showdown.
Okay.
If a player's card is the highest of the 3, both their initial wager and an optional raise are paid 1-to-1. If 2 of the 3 cards are the same rank and are tied for the highest, both cards win and are paid 1-to-1. If all 3 cards are equal in rank, all hands win, and the initial bet is paid 3-to-1, and the raise is paid 1-to-1. Aces are high.
Interesting. This sounds like it sounds like a more convoluted game of Casino War.
Well, it's supposed to be 3-card Monty, but yeah, there's some of that. So the full Monty side bet I won't go in, but it's basically there's a suited 3 of a kind that pays 100-to-1 and so on. I won't go into the side bet too much. But I looked at Wizard of Odds, Chris, and the house edge for this Penn and Teller Casino Monte game is 2.1%.
I was going to take a guess.
Darn it, sorry.
3.5. So
it's 2.1, which is not terrible.
No, I mean, it's worse than your average blackjack game, but it could be worse.
Yeah, the side bet is 6%.
Well, which is actually pretty good compared to most side bets.
Right. So anyway, that's the full Monty or whatever it's called, Penn and Teller Casino Monte.
Okay, well, if any of our listeners head over to Rio anytime soon, which that would be interesting in and of itself. But if you do, feel free to play that game. Shoot us some feedback. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, we like Penn and Teller, so the wheel thought it would be fun to have.
I am a huge Penn and Teller fan. Not a huge Rio fan, but a huge Penn and Teller fan. So,
right.
Anything else before we get out here this week?
I just wanted to say one more plug for Leavenworth, Washington. Chris is like, what the hell are we talking about Leavenworth again? I saved this for the end of the show this time.
I say, did we buy a property together and you forgot to tell me? Because
I went on the mountain roller coaster with my kid. We finally went on the mountain roller coaster, Chris. And we're in line. It's a big line. This was like a Sunday. We're in line on the mountain roller coaster. There's a couple in front of us. And the woman says right in front of us to her husband or whoever, partner, I really feel bad for the people behind us because I'm going to go really slowly.
Oh, Lord.
And we're like, well, we're right behind you. And we heard that. And she was not kidding. She went the whole ride with the brakes all the way down, which means if you've never been on a mountain coaster, you can't go fast either.
No, I've been on one before. And I think one time I went with my kids and my oldest was scared to death and she was in front of me. And so, we literally trickled down the track.
Yeah. Fortunately, we bought 2 rides. So the second one was much better, but don't be that person on a mountain roller coaster.
No, and it's actually really dangerous because when you do that, you run the risk of getting rear-ended by somebody going very fast that can't stop in time. So it could be bad. So just don't.
These ones, I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods. These ones automatically slow down. They have sensors that each break in the track.
Oh, mine definitely did not.
You can't. But it's very jarring because you're flying along and all of a sudden and you didn't do it. No, they're
almost
sensors.
Sounds like our wheel stopping is what it sounds like.
Exactly.
All right.
That's
Thank you guys for listening.
Talk.
We really appreciate it. Make sure you check out Josh and my B&B that's coming up in Leavenworth, Washington. I don't have a link yet because he hasn't told me about it, but it will be out soon, and we will talk to you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Vegas, here we come.
Thanks for listening to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Have you ever been to Vegas?
Check out all our recent news and our Vegas trip calendar by visiting crapvegas.com.
See you in Vegas.
But with that being said, Josh, let's let people know how to get a hold of us, or else this episode will be 25 hours long.
Never end.
I do love how every time we come into this, I think some people have asked before, like, what was I going to go with this? I lost my own train of thought halfway through the phrase. Hold on. It will click for me here. Hold on. If I had to guess, I probably lost a shit ton of money at this point. I'm probably ready to come home.
You have to bleep that. Bleep ton.
Oh, yeah. I've probably had a... Oh, I don't know where it is. What happened to it? Oh, here it is. I probably had a... I don't even remember what I was saying. I can't even beep it at this point.
You lost a shit ton of money.
Yeah. Perfect.